We're rolling. Timer starts now. Mark. Hi, I'm Ford.
And I'm Sky. And these are not our real names. These are our superhero names, and with our powers combined, we formed the writing partnership L. Skyford. Welcome to Booklandia.
You've joined us today for a Minisode, where we will geek out about literary topics like plot and character tropes, and maybe some book news. But before we get much further, did you know you can watch our faces do this episode by subscribing to us on Twitch at lskyford or YouTube at l.skyford? You should do it. We give good face.
And sometimes there's a dog bomb at Ford's house.
This is true. For our other socials, you can follow us on Twitter at SkyfordL, on Instagram at l.skyford. And if you're interested in our book, blog, or even more book reviews, head over to our website, lskyford.com.
Lastly, this and every episode are chock full of oversharing and spoilers, and every episode is rated E for explicit. You have been warned.
Hi.
You've been warned. Hi.
You've been warned.
Hi. Everyone has been warmed by a blanket.
By a warm
Warmed.
blanket. Excellent. Welcome to this minisode. We are talking about tropes. Today's trope is there's only one bed. Trope-landia.
Yep.
I
Only
feel
one
like
bed.
it requires its own graphic. Trope-landia.
I know it has its own thing. I am also going to mash this up with a little bit of forced proximity. I think those it walks hand in hand, this concept. So, yeah. Okay, so this trope is when the love interests are stuck somewhere inconveniently, and one of those places could be a room with only one bed. So yeah, why do you think this trope works?
I don't know that this trope works for me, but
Okay.
when they're stuck somewhere together, the love interests do not have the option, possibility, or opportunity to escape their either sexual attraction or feelings, right? The actual act of forced proximity, be it into a singular bed or a room where they're locked and they can't get out, or even in a larger sense, it creates an opportunity for them to really focus on how they feel about each other. And I think that's why it works theoretically.
Yes, that is exactly. I agree. And just laying in a bed gets people thinking about laying on someone in a bed. Heyo. Why do you think it's flawed? Since I'm getting the feeling you don't really like this one.
I think it's flawed because in most instances of romance, we're talking about young adults, new adults, or adults, right? In all of those instances, there's an implication that two people cannot be in close proximity with each other without ripping each other's clothes off.
Sure.
Right? Like that's
right.
Oh no, there's only one bed. We have to do it now. And secondly, have no one ever slept on the floor before? I feel like there is a significant number of opportunities to remain platonic, or I'm going to use the word gentlemanly, not to mean a gentleman, but to mean being courteous. There are so many opportunities to be adults and to have an actual conversation about boundaries. And right. And so the implication of this is that you unintentionally break boundaries. And some of the books we're going to talk about, those boundaries get broken in a slightly cringy way. So at least for me. So this is why I don't think it works, because there's an implication of a lack of control and a lack of boundaries that I'm not comfortable with.
Yes. For me, being certain romances where forced proximity is a thing, they're like maybe imprisoned together or on the run together or some such. Isn't that just Stockholm syndrome? Like you have all this stress and you have to get it out, so you might as well just like get it out with your potential captor or this person who it feels so problematic.
It feels kind of problematic. Now, having said that, some
Yeah.
of the books that I put on our list of books that
Mhm.
have this trope in them are actually really
Mhm.
lovely. And I think they're lovely because they have other tropes in them that work a lot better for me than this
Mm.
particular trope. So, like the
Sure.
very first book I have on my list of books that represents this particular trope is The Flat Share, which is
Sure.
literally a book about two people sharing a bed. So they're renting the same apartment, and he has a night shift job and she has a daytime job. So she's only in the bed during the nighttime hours and he's only in the bed during the daytime hours. And they're not supposed to ever be in the bed at the same time. And that
Mm.
book is lovely. That relationship is really great. It works for me in a lot of ways because they're friends to lovers. That's the other trope in that book.
Mhm. Mm.
And though the there's only one bed device is definitely clearly a device in that book, I
Hmm.
it did not seem like a silly, they did not have an adult conversation about how to behave properly in a bed story. It ultimately just so happened that they end up in that bed together. But so this is sort of the outlier for me. Yes, there's literally only
Got
one
it.
bed, but they do have a lot of significant conversations before they claim that bed as their sexual conquest, if you will.
Love making space.
Love making
No, that's
space,
a deep one.
exactly. Yes.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So like the next one on the list is Unhoneymooners, which if I remember correctly, they go on a honeymoon that wasn't their honeymoon. And
Yeah,
so
they're the
they're stuck in
brother
this
and
honeymoon
sister.
suite.
Yeah, they're the
Yeah.
brother and sister of the people who were meant to go on the honeymoon, and,
Mhm.
because it's a very expensive honeymoon and they don't wanna let it go to waste, they pretend to be the couple. They are
Yeah.
forced into extreme proximity with each other, not just by the fact that they're in this hotel room together, but, at some point, the stakes are even higher because her boss or his boss is also
Yeah.
there, and so they have to
Uh-huh.
pretend even harder. They can't just
Yeah.
share a space, a private space together. They have to share public space together. So
Mhm.
in that one, yeah. And they start out with him on the couch and her in the bedroom, and then they end up in the one bed. So again, maybe an outlier because they yes, they are forced to talk to each other and forced to discover
Mhm.
their similar interests, but they
Mhm.
do have an adult conversation about how to share space.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the next one on the list you love, so please gush.
Squee! Squee in my squee. So the next one on the list is Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera, and I absolutely love this short story. But
Mhm.
the tropiest of the trope parts of the story is when these two women who are forced to work together are also forced to sleep in the same room and in the same
Mhm.
bed. And this is like I mean, this short story has some insta lust and a little bit of insta love in it and a lot of other tropes built into it, but it was just such a cartoony setup for them to be in one
Mhm.
bed that I was just
Yeah.
like, okay. I mean, pile it on, why don't you? But I do love this
Right.
story very much.
Mhm.
I just yeah, again, you could sleep on the floor if you really needed to, and
Right.
you didn't need
Right.
to, so
So, that brings up for me the most recent book that I read that had this, which is First Comes Like by Alicia Rye, because there is a scene where they're in a room that has only one bed, and she builds up this tension of like, should they share a bed? But the whole thing about the book is she is an Orthodox Muslim, so no, they're never going to share the bed, and he's going to respect her boundaries. And even if there wasn't a pull-out sofa, he could go sleep in the car. Like there are options, but I like that she trumped that trope. So I think subverting the trope is also really fun. And in that case, was very cute and on brand for the story.
Yes. Yes. I mean, yes,
Yes.
sure.
Okay. Great.
My point, no,
You
my
have so
point
many
there,
opinions.
I do, and I don't want to share them on this Trope-sode because we're gonna do a full. Go look for the full episode of First Comes Like, because there is a full episode where we talk about all of this. So do that instead of listening to me do it again. Yeah,
It's news to me that we're doing a full episode on First Comes Like.
it's on the schedule.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll look at the schedule.
You wrote the
Take note.
schedule.
That was weeks ago. My goodness. Okay. So okay,
That's amazing.
Few more on the list.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't
so
remember
the
things.
other one the other one that I have on this list is another Christina Lauren, and it's called The Roomie or Roomies. I should have looked it up. I think it's Roomies. Also, by the
I think
way,
it's
I think
Roomies.
it's recently optioned to be a Netflix movie or a Netflix TV show.
Awesome. Cool.
Kind of so I really like the premise of this one because it's about Broadway and it's about working on Broadway, and it feels like there's a lot of research put into it. But it's the exact same setup as the Flat Share, insofar as they are renting an apartment together, or she's renting an apartment. She lets this guy move in with her. He's sleeping on her couch, and they fall in lust with each other and are then forced to marry for a variety of reasons that are not love.
Yeah.
And then they
it's his for his green card, right?
Yes, it is. It's for his green card. And then they fall in love, and then they fall out of love as the breaking point in the book, and then will they, won't they,
Sure.
to end it all. But they have an only one bed situation and a couch, and for a while he sleeps on the couch. And side note on all of these people who don't sleep in the bed but end up sleeping on the couch, there are so many books in which while sleeping or sitting on the couch, they find a dildo in the couch. That happens so frequently. We've read this
It's
I've read it 3 or 4 times.
Right.
I understand
They
that
have to
it's
ratchet up
supposed to
the sexual tension. Yeah.
Right, I get it, and you're supposed to get into this now there's a sex toy in the room, and so obviously we all know what that's used for. But here is my problem with it. Wash your sex toys after you're done playing with them. It is not hygienically okay to leave them lying in the couch.
Yeah, correct. There are crumbs in there. And crumbs are bothersome.
Just wash your toys, please. Follow proper cleaning instructions. Warm water and soap in most instances, but look at them up. But don't just every time that happens, I'm like, no, you're supposed to clean that. And they're always so excited about it. And I'm like, do you know what you're holding? There is a difference between being excited by a sex toy in the midst of it and holding an unclean sex toy. So
crusty is the word you're looking for. Yes. Crusty sex toy. Okay,
that is exactly it. And every time that happens, I'm like, oh, can you wash that, please? I have an immediate reaction to it.
That's hilarious.
That's what happens to me when I read people pulling out dildos from a couch. So that's my note to everyone who's listening. If you're writing a scene where someone gets a dildo out from the couch, clarify that it's clean and fully taken care of. I just worry about the dildos.
Aww, save our dildos.
Save our dildos. Excellent on a t-shirt.
Thank you. I'll write that down. Okay, why don't you tell the peoples about the last book on our list?
So the last book
on proximity.
Yeah, the last book on my list is Sanctuary by Rebecca Weatherspoon. It is the second in her Beard and Bondage series. And this one was so usually I'm a huge Rebecca Weatherspoon fan. This book was not a fave of mine for a variety of reasons. I had some consent issues with this book, and specifically with this bed situation. So there's only one bed. They are forced to stay in this house because she's on the lam. Well, she's hiding from someone who's
She's
put a
in
hit out
hiding,
on
yeah.
her. So she's in hiding. She has to stay in this house with this man, and they have to stay in this one bed because there's only one bed. Again, there's a perfectly usable couch in the living room because they then go to the couch
Yeah.
for some sex later, but
There are
whatevs.
multiple bedrooms that no one makes up because
Right.
they're upstairs.
Yeah, so they're in this bed, and then in the middle of the night, while asleep, he dry humps her and comes in her hand, and all of that made no
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
it was not
He was
explicitly
asleep.
consented to. He was
Yeah.
asleep. It like, there's so much about that that was literally like, you are so horny that you cannot even contain yourself to like bed boundary. It was did not work for me at all.
Yep. Yeah.
This to me was the greatest example of why this trope doesn't work for me.
Sure. I would point out that of the 6 books we've talked about, you liked 3 of them, so perhaps you don't hate this trope as much as you say you do.
Perhaps I don't. Perhaps it is
Food
just
for thought.
good to know for laters.
All right, lovely listeners and viewers, what's your favorite forced proximity only one bed book? Did we cover it? Did we forget one? Come, tell us. Do you love this trope? Do you hate this trope? Come, tell us.
Again, good for a t-shirt.
Thank you. Is it C-O-M-E or is it C-U-M?
Do I have to
Okay,
answer?
great.
Okay.
You do for the podcasting purposes.
Very good. Then yes, with the U and the M.
Excellent. I'll write that one down as well. All right, y'all. See y'all next time. So are you, dear audience human, gonna pick up this book now that you've heard our review? Let us know in the comments. Have a suggestion for another review? Slide on into our DMs.
If you like this adventure in books or updates on our upcoming projects, please follow, like, save, subscribe, rate, review us on Instagram at l.skyford, on Twitch at lskyford, and on Twitter at skyfordl. Phew. I'm Sky.
And I'm Ford. And that's it for this minisode. We will see you next time on Booklandia, where every book is a whole world to explore.